Hello and welcome to the Very Little Podcast. I'm Marsha, also known as Very Little, and this is my little podcast all about knitting and whatever other crafty things I am doing. I say other crafty things because I do have plans for other crafty things. I just am not doing them right now. I was making a quilt that I will be sharing with you, but I got to the ironing the pieces after I sewed a bunch of the squares together and I got bored, so I put it aside. I want to say thank you for joining me today. Welcome to anybody who is new. I've had a bunch of new subscribers, and I want to say thank you for returning to everybody who's coming back. It's great to see you again. I don't think today's episode is going to be very long. I've been very monogamous this week, so I just want to go over what I've done. First thing I want to talk about is what am I wearing? I am wearing the Antler Cardigan by Tin Can Knits. I knit this a few years ago, I think probably 4 or 5. It was one of the knits I did when I was originally podcasting in the before times. And it actually has antler buttons made out of real antler. And these antler buttons are local, but they're also ethically resourced. They come from finding antlers in the forest, and the creator just goes and collects antlers that are on the ground and saws them and puts holes in them and creates these beautiful buttons. I don't have any more information than that because I purchased them at the old yarn store in the town I used to live in, and that store is no longer around, so I have no more information than that. The yarn I used is a very woolly sheepy yarn. It definitely smells like sheep, and it has the itchiness of a good outside cardigan. It is scratchy next to the skin, but I usually would wear this as a layering piece over top of some sort of long sleeve top so it wouldn't be so scratchy. The yarn, I do believe, is from McCauslin Woolen Mill, but I am not 100% sure because I purchased it from there was a sale actually in the town that I live in now, and there was room on room on room lined with knitting supplies and yarns and like cases of really nice yarn. I actually purchased quite a bit. It was like $1 or $2 a skein. It was an amazing deal. So I purchased quite a few sweaters quantities, and I still have quite a few sweaters quantities left of that yarn. And this year I'm knitting through stash anyway. At this point, I can't go out and purchase any yarn. So I am working through the stash that I have on hand, and it's a pretty good size. So I don't think I'll run out of yarn this year. And it's also good for me to work through what I already have. So that's kind of a goal for me this year, is to work through what I have and not do any additional spending outside of what is absolutely necessary. There's been some changes around my purchasing of things, which isn't a bad thing. It needed to happen. So I'm just embracing it with a great attitude because I love all the yarn that I have. And I purchased it because it gave me that ooey gooey feeling. And so I'm going to just knit with that, what I have on hand. So not necessarily will everything have a brand attached to it. Some of my stash doesn't have the tags any longer. Some of it never did have tags, especially like this didn't have a tag, but it was with a bunch of stuff from McCauslin Woolen Mill, so I just made the assumption that it was from there. I've also been to McCauslin Woolen Mill in Prince Edward Island, and they definitely had this color and this smelling yarn, so I don't think it's a far leap. I did get a finished object done over the week, and this is what I've been monogamously knitting. It is the inward wrap. It is a wrap that I released this pattern this autumn. It is big and ooey gooey lusciousness. It blocked out beautifully. I'm so happy with it. I believe I'm going to save this as a gift for somebody. I already have somebody in mind. So this will be going into, I'm making a box that is for gifts, and I'm going to knit through the year gifts gift knitting and put them aside so that they don't need to be reblocked or anything before I give them as gifts. Mostly I'll be having somebody in mind when I add a gift to the gift box. And then at Christmas time, when I pull out all of my knits, I'll be able to set aside what is for whom. I kind of want to aim for a homemade Christmas this year, which I think, considering all of the circumstances, is probably the best idea for this Christmas. So I'm going to head in that direction, but I'll be sharing everything along the way with you. If you also want to join in, then just tag me in. Let's actually do a cowl. Actually, I just thought of that. Let's do a cowl. And we're going to call it hashtag Christmas Knit Box. I just came up with this. So it's going to run from now until Christmas. And you can tag Christmas Knit Box in your posts. I don't know about prizes. I just came up with that right now because I thought maybe some of you would like to join in with me. And it would just be a fun thing to do. So we'll see where I'm situated at Christmas. I should be able to pull some stuff out of my stash and come up with a really great prize for anybody who wants to participate. You can put on Instagram the hashtag Christmas Knit Box. I have a group on Ravelry that I really need to get involved back in. I haven't been working over there because I've been setting up my website and, you know, all of the other little pieces that I've been working on recently. So let's get into this. I was asked a question. I need to go through all of the notes from my last podcast. There's a lot of messages underneath the video that I haven't gone into and responded to yet. But one of the questions that was asked was about the bag that I was using for my inward wrap. And it is the Fat Squirrel Bag. It's a sweater sized bag. I do not know if it's her extra large. I would think it probably is. I do remember it was in the very large section, and I would be able to definitely fit a sweater's worth of yarn in here, plus my needles and pattern. Like it's a skookum size bag. So I really love this bag. If you're interested in the Fat Squirrel's bag, she has, I'm not sure if she has a website or if it's just on Etsy, but if you go into the Fat Squirrel on YouTube, she has the links underneath her videos. And if you want to stop by and say hi, then absolutely do that because she's so much fun. So the yarns that were used in the inward wrap will start at the yellow in the center. Yellow here is by Riverstone Yarns and it is Gold Rush. The next yarn here is this beautiful dark pink by Nicole C Mendez and it is Reuben. The next color here, this beautiful green, is Apple Fibre Studio in Peridot. This next color here, the light pink, is Riverstone Yarns again, and it is Rose Quartz. And this black is Riverstone Yarns again in Diamonds at Night. All of these colors, she just lost her shirt. All of these colors are sparkle. I don't know if, here, let me pull this off and I'll show you. I don't know if you can see the sparkle in it, but it's definitely, they are all sparkle yarn. I wanted something that had a little bit of extra life to it compared to just a regular yarn that didn't have that extra sparkly depth. And I used to not be a sparkle knitter. I shied away from the sparkle because it's I just wasn't drawn to it. So, but now I definitely am, and I think that it works really great in this wrap. I do have, I'll show you how much I have left of each color. There's still quite a bit left in each color, so I could actually knit a pair of socks out of the scraps. Just use them all together and make matching socks. Wouldn't that be cute? Use the same pattern but put it in socks. I think that'd be really cute. These are all of the colors. So if I did heels, toes, and cuffs in the yellow, and then it's like, this is the center, and then the different colors in between, and then maybe a row of it in between each color, I think that would look really cute. I'll have to think about that. I know when I was working on this, there was a designer at the same time who was releasing a pair of socks that were very similar. So I messaged her and I said, hey, so I've been working on this wrap for a year and I wanted to let you know that there are some, because there's only so many knitting motifs. And I let her know that, you know, I have been working on this for a year. The motifs are a little bit similar. I don't know if they're the same. I don't have her sock pattern, but they just were reminiscent. And she's like, oh, that's not a problem. They're, you know, it's designing is designing. And so, yeah, so I might actually do maybe a hat or socks or something out of the leftover yarn that has the same motifs as this, because I think that would be really fun. Just a little extra something. I'll think about that and I'll let you know how that goes. The next thing is I picked this up. So yesterday I finished this shawl and woven all of the ends and blocked it. So I just pulled it off the pins this morning. So last night I picked up the winter doldrums because last week I mentioned that I was going to start knitting this. We were watching Once Upon a Time last night as a family, and I was working on this. So when you saw it last week, I was down here. The Winter Doldrums is a free pattern available on Ravelry, and it is by me. I'm knitting through it one more time just to make sure everything's good with it, and it will have an update coming. The update just kind of changes the format of things to how I'm formatting things now. So it doesn't really, it's not changing anything. Maybe wordings, adding commas, that sort of thing. Other than that, it's good. And there will be actually, for the inward wrap, there will be an update for this as well. There, I had to add 2 commas. And I do believe I had to put the terms in alphabetical order, but I think that was it on that one. So Winter Doldrums. This yarn that we're looking at here is Smith & U in variegated fuchsia purple and turquoise. It's also a sparkly yarn. I hope that's showing. And I think I'm almost done the blue. I have a little bit more of the blue to go. Then it'll be going into the purple and then into the fuchsia. The one thing with this yarn is it does feel like it was a sock blank that was dyed as a sock blank and then pulled out. It's got waves in the yarn. And I have sock blanks, I just haven't knit from them. And what I'm finding is that it's giving what it looks like now a bit less of a consistent texture. But also you'll notice here on the I-cord side, there's some stitches that are a little bit loose compared to other ones. And I'm really hoping that comes out with blocking, but I could have soaked the yarn and gotten that little bit of a crimp out. I didn't, but it's just something to be aware of, that next time I would probably skein up the yarn and re-soak it and then knit it. But the yarn is beautiful to work with. I'm really enjoying it. It has a lot of elasticity to it. And it's very beautiful. So I'm just I'm really enjoying it. It's a very meditative knit. It was also really easy to work on last night with very low lighting because it's a pretty intuitive pattern. I still have the pattern out and I'm still checking off which rows I'm on. But if you get the pattern, you'll understand why. But once you get the swing of it, it's really intuitive. For me, the check marks are the thing that takes probably the most time, is stopping to do one. And that's how I mark my stitches. I don't have a stitch counter. I find that how my brain works is that I look at a stitch counter and think, is that the row that I'm on or is that the one that I just completed? And it messes me up. So when I'm knitting a pattern, I put a half check mark. I put a half check mark when I'm on a row and complete the check mark when it's done. So I know that I'm on this row right here. And when that one's complete, I finish the check mark and then I put a half check mark there. So I know, okay, I'm now on this row. And the half check mark goes on right away. So I know if I put it down where I'm at. And that's just one of those little things. I think that's totally a preference thing. I know lots of knitters who use row counters and they love them. And that's great. Whatever you find that works for you, that's what you need to do. And I'm totally for whatever that looks like for everybody. So last week I was wearing my hoodie design and that will be released I'm aiming for March 14th. So hopefully it'll be all ready. The final edit will be done and you will be able to see it for March 14th. It will also be on sale during this Help Marsha sale. And I'm really looking forward to that being released. I still have to come up with a name. It's still just called Hoodie. So I will be doing that this week as well. I will notify you on Instagram when it is available. And if you already follow my designs, it will pop up on things you might be interested in as well. I think that's it for the knitting. So if you were just here for the knitting, thank you so much for joining me. If you're interested in supporting the podcast in any way, there's a whole bunch of different options down below. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. For those of you who are interested in jibber jabber, let's get jibber jabbering. There are a lot more viewers that are here that have been sent over from some other designers and podcasters, one being Kate from the Hawthorne Cottage podcast. And I just want to say thank you everybody for coming on over, and there has been a swift uptake in the purchase of my fingerless mitten design, and I really appreciate that. I've gotten a lot of hellos from people who've come over from her podcast. So I just want to say a huge welcome. The Distance Stitches has also mentioned my podcast. And so there's some people coming over from there. I believe with Distance Stitches, we do share a lot of mutual viewers already. We're a part of the same knitting community, so it makes sense. And there are also some people over here from Ellie of Skein Knits. She posted on her Instagram. There's also quite a few other podcasters and designers. Annihilator Knits also posted. And I want to thank everybody. I'm sorry if I forgot to include you. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head the ones. In my last episode, I spoke about what has been going on in my life, and I want to say a huge thank you. I was able to put $5,000 down on the bill that I received for just over $11,000. So things have slowed down a little bit. I'm still working towards that goal. I've been looking at things that I can sell to increase the amount of money that I can put down. And somebody came to my house yesterday and left their card. I haven't contacted them yet, but they are interested in purchasing my camper that the girls and I lived in when we had to leave. We lived in it for a couple months before I found a place to rent. So it's a 16 or 17 foot camper. Her name's Edith, and I did all of the renovations on the inside to clamp it up. I redid cushion covers, painted the whole thing. It's very cute. So I'm going to be probably contacting that person today to see if they're still interested in what kind of price range they're thinking, because I know what I'm thinking, and I'm hoping that they're thinking around the same thing. And then I'll have another good chunk to stick onto that bill. And I just look at it as one more step towards freedom. I'm really excited for that to be taken care of, and for everything that's attached to that to be taken care of. It's been a long go, and it's been a very emotional thing, but I have a really great support system. I also am not afraid of selling things or working extra hard to get the extra money. I do still have the 50% off discount with the coupon code Help Marsha. On Ravelry, that coupon code is capital HELP, capital MARSHA. And now my website is set up. It does not have all of my designs yet, because as I'm updating them on Ravelry, I'm getting them posted to my website. So it's all updated at the same time, because I don't know how easy it will be to send updates through my website yet. So that's a kink I have to work through and figure that out. If you choose to go to the website, the coupon code there is Help Marsha, all capitals. So you can take advantage of the discount there, or on Ravelry, there's 2 different options. And I look forward to seeing you from either direction. The amount that has been raised is just over $5,100 after PayPal and Ravelry have taken their cuts. So that is good. The amount that is sent isn't necessarily the amount that comes through, because each takes their own little cut. So there would have been quite a bit more had there not been fees and stuff. But I just look at that as that's how it is, and it's part of the process. So I was able to put that $5,000 down on that bill, and it was a huge relief to me. I have been so just blown away by all of the amazing support from everybody, and just listening to people's stories. You know, this is the hardest thing that I've ever had to go through, and I have grown in so many ways. I see myself as a work in progress and healing, if that makes sense. I've been working very closely with a really amazing counselor. We have been working together for almost a year, and I was working with a different counselor before that. The one before that wasn't as qualified as the one that I'm working with now, and that has made all of the difference for me. But it is like an extra expense as well. But I definitely think that mental health is something that you need to invest in. It's not necessarily that I'm not depressed or anything. I don't want to bring anything from my previous experience into future experiences. I want to make sure that my healing is complete, and I want to be a whole person moving forward and not drag anything that could negatively impact me into the future in any aspect. So I've been working really hard. That has been a big focus of me. For me, I've done like tons of homework. I've been meditating, journaling, lots of self-care. And self-care for me is not necessarily like, it can be Epsom salts baths, and it has been known to be Epsom salts baths, but it also means that I'm paying more attention to what I'm putting into my body and getting more active again, because those things tend to be the first thing to go, and there's only certain balls can drop, but my health can't be one of them, and my kids can't be one of them, and anything else is negotiable, I feel like. So I'm just making sure that the balls that can't drop don't, and looking after everything else so that those important things don't fall on the ground. I also wanted to talk quickly, and this is more knitting related than jibber jabber related, but I really wanted to talk about it quickly because it's something that I, as a designer, I find is really, really important, and for myself as well. So I'm going to take off this little shawl, little wrap, and by little I mean giant. And I want to talk about how this sweater fits me right now. When I knit this, I was a smaller size, and this definitely fit me better back then. But now my bust size has changed. And so my buttons, I should probably move them over. I can also wear this unbuttoned, but the shirt I'm wearing underneath, I'm not going to do that. The thing that I found is that I took all of my measurements at one point 4 years ago at a designing course I took. They showed us how to take all of our measurements and where we measure to come up with our body measurements, and it's how you do the math for the rows and the gauge and the stitches. All of that is based off of your measurements. What I found is what I thought I was, and what I really was about a 2-inch difference. And now again, what I thought I was and what I really am is now about a 3-inch difference. So from what I was wearing 5 years ago to what I'm wearing now is about a 5-inch difference. Knits are fairly forgiving. It's a fairly forgiving fabric. It stretches. It's, usually it's got some room, depending on if you're knitting it with additional ease, which is additional room. So say positive ease is if your measurement for your bust is 35 and you're doing 2 inches of positive ease, you would knit a size 37. That gives you 2 extra inches of wiggle room. Negative ease is if you're a 35-inch bust and you knit a 33-inch. So that would be 2 inches of negative ease. So it fits tighter. And with no ease, it means if you're a 35-inch bust and you knit for a 35-inch bust. That is how ease works. One thing I find that is important is to recognize, like for me, I'm larger than I was, obviously, but being happy with that and acknowledging where my body is in life right now, and there's more real estate, and that's fine. I'm going to love my body where it's at, make sure that I'm taking my measurement at the fullest point on my bust and knitting for that, because I think it's important to not just measure correctly, but to love where your body is at, because you're creating a garment for your body, and your body is what gets you through everything. This is your vessel, and what you knit for it, you want it to be flattering. And another thing to note is that sometimes this measurement, the bust measurement, isn't the largest measurement across your body. And there are ways to edit a pattern or make it fit your body shape better than just going for the bust measurement and then having it stretching across your stomach. That wouldn't be comfortable. So measure the widest part of your body and do your measurement from there. And you can also do decreases in the top, or you can change the way a pattern looks on you for your body shape. So you don't necessarily have it tight up here and loose down here. You can continue having it as a straight line, or you can add shaping in that gives the illusion of a different shape. But understanding your own body is really important when you're going to be knitting a garment. And I know not everybody's there to love the skin they're in, but for me, I know that this sweater, I should put it aside for a little while. And if I fit it again, then fantastic. I can wear it unbuttoned too, and that's fine as well. I do need to be measuring my own body to make sure that things are going to fit, because you can actually take your measurements and look at a pattern and tweak it so that it's going to fit your body, because everybody's body is different. Not everybody's going to fit into the this or that. But if you understand what shape you are and what you're comfortable in, you can actually address some issues. So if your sweater's too tight across the top, you can take a measurement of that, figure out how much ease you want in that, and then you'll know how many stitches you need to have across your chest, your shoulders, and your back to give you that space that you need. I just find it super fascinating. And a very, very big squirrel hike off of the trail. But it still has to do with knitting. So I think that's it for me for today. I want to thank you all for joining me. I appreciate every single one of you. I hope you have an amazing week and an amazing weekend. Also, today is International Women's Day, so happy International Women's Day. And if you do anything to celebrate that, cool, I'd like to hear about that. If you it's just another day, then happy International Women's Day. If you go down into the notes below, you can also pick up the Winter Doldrums shawl for free, and maybe we could get knitting on that. It could be one of the things that goes into your Christmas knit box as a gift, and it's a one skein wonder, so it only takes one skein of yarn. It's really easy to adapt, so if you wanted it larger, you could just do that also. Okay, until next time, I hope you have a beautiful day.